What's up, guys? Connor O'Hanlon here for another episode of the Greater Society podcast. And today we have a bit of a wide range of topics to cover once again. Starting off with the big guy, as you saw him, uh, as you see here, we got a new dancing clip. So I thought, why not break up the normal way that we do the intro and show this clip. But the big thing coming out of this week regarding him is the leak of the tape that we actually had known about. We will get into it, obviously, from CNN that talks about the classified documents case. We'll go into the leaks, his defense, the reaction, all that stuff. We'll talk about Jesse Waters taking over for Tucker Carlson in coveted 8 o'clock. I just have Trump dancing on my. I have to watch that. That he's the coveted 8 o'clock spot for Fox News, and the repercussions, the expectations, what's to expect there, etc. We're also going to talk about the Supreme Court case that kind of pushed back on the Independent State Legislature Theory and what that means for voting rights, what it means, etc., down the line. Or other cases, we're going to talk about RFK Jr. once again, and I promise you today we will talk about Cornel West, because I have been trying to talk about it, but then at the end of the show, I always forget or to have a coughing fit like last week. So today we will talk about it and we will analyze that presidential candidacy. With that being said, while you're here, make sure to hit the subscribe button if you're on YouTube and follow us anywhere else on social media, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you name it. We're on it. But first, let us go to the Trump audio recording. There's going to be a million ads on this, so I'll warn you beforehand. Let us see if I can get through the ads first.
These are bad.
Okay, cool. All right. So I'll set you guys up. For those who don't know, Donald John Trump, the former president, has been indicted twice. He's been impeached twice. One of those indictments was with regards to the misplaced, stolen, whatever you want to call them, documents that were found at Mar-a-Lago based on the raid that happened a few months back. Now, we went over this at least last week. Maybe I might have been 2 weeks ago at this point since he was arrested the second time. But the reason for the arrest was the intent to take the documents, hold them, and not return them over a period of time after requests of being to return them, right? So people ask, well, why hasn't Joe Biden been charged for something? There's a specific intent that is important here. And let's not forget, and let's be honest, I think this intent piece is very big because there's multiple, and as we'll find out in this leak here, there are multiple chances in which Trump had the opportunity to return the documents, no questions asked, no problems, nothing at all. Nobody probably would have ever heard of it, but he refused to. And he showed the documents to people without security clearances, knowingly, as we will find out in this clip. The difference is that Joe Biden is still under investigation by a special committee, a special prosecutor. So if for some reason that there was a suggestion that President Biden should be charged with something, or he should have, he should return all the documents, which he did, by the way, then that should be the case, right? We should not treat them differently, and I don't think anybody is advocating for them to be treated differently. That's the equality of the justice system that we should be expecting. And of course, we talked about last week Hunter Biden accepting a plea deal. Remember, and I'll point this out probably over the next 6 or so months, or maybe more, that pretty much every time one of these deals is coming through, or one of these arrests are coming through, or something's happening with Trump, he has the opportunity to have a plea deal himself, right? So anytime that you're like, well, how come Hunter Biden gets to do this? President Trump had this in the past. He had the opportunity to take plea deals. He's had the opportunity to make deals outside of this. He could have ended this stuff a long time ago. Maybe he shouldn't have broken the law. I like presidents that don't break the law. But this leak, which again, we knew that people had this information, but we're waiting for it to come out. This leak is from ghostwriters, which, shocker, politicians have ghostwriters, of Mark Meadows, who I believe is the former chief of staff for Donald Trump when he was the president. He's writing a memoir of his time being in the White House. Okay, when he was doing this book, the writers met with Trump and a staffer, and they were, as writers and journalists do, recording the conversation. And the audio you're about to hear is a staffer for Trump himself, and at the end, you will hear the writer, the ghostwriter of the book, respond to Trump. This is damning audio, and this is pretty much as close to a a smoking gun as you could get. So there's no visual for this, so we will just listen to this together.
These are bad, sick people.
That was your coup, against you.
It started right at the beginning.
Like when Millie's talking about, oh, you were going to try to do a coup. No, they were trying to do that before you even were sworn in.
So what they're talking about is basically General Milley, who I believe was just the general at the time, but he was given plans of different outcomes of different situations, right? So the president is basically given a landscape of opportunities, of threats, of different scenarios that they can run through. The CIA and the Pentagon, and I mean, I'm sure the FBI does it too. They all create these scenarios, and they basically run through like, all right, if this happens, we're going to do this, and they have these documents. Now, what Trump and them are trying to claim is that they're using a plan with Iran to try and screw up Trump and try to have him do something that he wouldn't otherwise do, which some people are saying that they are trying to pressure him to go to war with Iran, which I don't find very likely because of the degradation of the Iranian and American relationship during the Trump administration because of the nuclear deal that he trashed. So I think people are probably, I have to believe that generals are smarter than just saying like, let's arbitrarily try to push a president that is kind of irrational to the brink of war. Remember that Trump used the Moab, the mother of all bombs, in Afghanistan. He bombed a Syrian airport. Like, we've come pretty close, and there were some very big issues in Iran. The specifics are pretty muddy, but we've had a couple of close calls here. So the fact that he's trying to claim that, or really it's a staffer here, claim that, oh, there's a coup coming against Trump, or there was a coup coming against Trump from the generals, is not true.
That's right, trying to overthrow your election.
Well, with Milley, let me see that. I'll show you an example. He said that I wanted to attack Iran. Isn't it amazing?
Remember, this document doesn't say that he wants to attack Iran. It's saying that basically these are the situations that could come of, X, Y, and Z. Now, we don't know because we don't have access to the document, right? But these are scenarios of like what could happen. They're not saying he should attack Iran. They're saying these are things that could happen and what the responses should or could be.
I have a big pile of papers. This thing just came up. Look.
You can hear the papers, by the way, right? Everyone note that you can hear the papers shuffling around.
They presented me this. This is off the record, but they presented.
By the way, just so you know, if you ever talk to a reporter, just by saying something is off the record does not mean that is off the record.
Me this. This was him. This was the Defense Department and him. Wow. We looked at some. This was him. This wasn't done by me. This was him. All sorts of stuff. It's pages long. Look.
Again, you can hear the pages flipping.
Yeah.
I just found, isn't that amazing? This totally wins my case,
Mm-hmm.
See, he thinks that whatever he's talking about, he thinks it wins his case. I'll remind you, this conversation is happening in July of 2021, so 2 years ago. 2 years ago. So there is no legal case that he is fighting, against all this stuff that he's facing right now, right? What he is talking about is basically a case for some other thing. I don't know what he's alluding to. I don't know if he's talking about like January 6th. I don't know what he's talking about.
Except it is like highly confidential, secret. This is secret information.
That is your smoking gun right there. And I'm going to rewind it one more time for you, just so you hear it. This is your smoking gun right here.
This totally wins my case,
Mm-hmm.
Except it is like highly confidential, secret. This is secret information. But look at this. You attack, and
it is highly confidential. It is top secret. That's what he just said.
Hillary would print that out all the time.
That's the staffer coming in and saying, Hillary would do this all the time. Now Trump's going to crack a joke and talk about Anthony Weiner.
She'd
Private
send it,
email.
she'd send it to
Yeah.
Anthony Weiner,
Yeah.
the pervert.
Please print.
By the way, isn't that incredible? Though?
Yeah.
I was just saying, because we were talking about
Isn't that incredible? So he is showing the documents to the writers and the staffer. Presumably the staffer had clearances. Let's just assume that. But probably that is not a safe assumption, but that is to just run with it and just say, take that staffer off and say they had the clearance. He is showing the documents specifically after saying that they are top secret and classified, and just shuffling through them. See, oh, you see that? You see that? You believe me?
and he said he wanted to attack Iran and what? These are the
You
papers.
did. It's pretty
This was done by the military, given to me. I think we can probably, right?
I don't know. We'll have to see. Yeah, we'll have to try to
Declassify.
figure out
it.
yeah.
Here's Smoking Gun Part 2.
Declassify.
Figure out
it.
yeah.
See, as president, I could have declassified.
Yeah.
As president, I could have declassified it.
Now I can't.
Now
but
I
this is
can't.
Yeah,
classified.
now we have a problem.
Isn't that
Now we have a
interesting?
problem.
It's so cool. I mean, it's so. We here and I have, and you probably almost didn't believe me, but now you believe me.
No, I believe
It's
you.
incredible, right?
No,
Hey, bring
they
some
never
bring some
metaphor,
cokes
they
in,
didn't want
please.
it.
And of course, you got to finish off with some cokes. So he is literally saying these are top secret classified documents that I am showing you. You can hear him showing them, and you hear the writer confirm that she sees them. He admits to saying, I could have declassified them as the president. I didn't, and I am no longer the president, so I can't. Which is quite literally the entirety of the case. Now, of course, there are more documents than what he showed this writer. The documents case is not specifically this one little siloed incident. But the defense that he doesn't have the documents is not the case. You can hear him talking about them. The second defense was the Democrats and the FBI and the Marxist people in the CIA, or whatever he wants to say. Remember, the CIA doesn't engage with domestic politics that way. They're foreign affairs, but whatever. He's saying that the FBI planted them, the Democrats planted them in his home, next to the toilet, by the way. The toilet that he had to flush 8 to 10 times because of the big dumps into the, big dumps of documents, not, into the toilet. That's not the case, because he's clearly proud that he has them. He is showing them off. And here we go. Oh, nope. Here we have his other defense is, oh, I was just talking with some bravado. Quote, I would say it was bravado if you want to know the truth. It was bravado. I was talking and just holding up papers and talking about them, but I had no documents. I didn't have any documents. That's what he says here. This article says Trump did not specify what the papers he was holding were, but stated that he had papers from 25 different things. In the recording, Trump could be heard discussing a Department of Defense plan for an attack on Iran. When asked about the use of the word plans in the recording, Trump claimed he was referring to business plans or plans for a new golf course. Quote, did I use the word plans? What I'm referring to is magazines, newspapers, plans of buildings. I had plans of buildings, building plans. I had plans of a golf course. So we're supposed to believe that the papers that he's alluding to, the writer confirms that she saw them. The staffer is hyping them up, talking specifically about General Milley, Mark Milley. Specifically, not just like, oh, remember that guy? And it's like, no, this is like, this is the documents he presented to me. It's about Iran, blah, blah, blah. It says top secret classified documents. He showed them, confirmed, so you'll see them. But no, it was about golf courses or business documents. which intermingling of those two things with government documents would be horrible enough. But to just flat out lie after confirmation, and of course this is after the tape came out, because beforehand he said, I didn't have documents at all. And then now that the tape came out, it's like, all right, well, he had something, and we've obviously recovered documents from Mar-a-Lago because it was a raid that brought them back. So he can't just say that they just didn't exist. They're not there. Just they're fake, made up. Nope, can't do that. I don't think I have any real reactions here that are worthwhile, but it is just worth noting that all of this was avoidable for this case. All this was avoidable, very much avoidable. And I think that even if this recording came out, because remember, this recording came out prior to the investigation, prior to the indictment, the recording happened. It didn't come out, but it happened 2 years ago. That this would have completely been blown over. There would be no issue whatsoever, in my opinion. And again, when we talk about this two-tier justice system, the Republicans want to claim, oh, it's Democrats get treated like no problem. First of all, remember, he's talking about Anthony Weiner in one hand, who literally was arrested, I believe, and was held accountable for his actions. He's no longer a congressman. Versus Trump, who hasn't been held accountable his entire life. So the two-tier justice system is not Democrats, Republicans. It is those with power and money and those without. And yeah, did Hunter Biden maybe get a sweetheart deal for his plea deal? Maybe, probably. People like Ben Shapiro getting upset about it. Yeah, you should be upset about it. But then you should also be upset about the other people that have this happen, or the people that commit these giant white-collar crimes, these tax evasion, all this other stuff, and never get caught for it. You're not mad about that because you are a hack and you're a partisan. But the two-tier justice system is not one of a partisan nature. That is just absolute BS. And we'll see where this investigation with Trump goes, but this is as much of a smoking gun as I've ever seen, basically, other than literally a video of somebody like committing a murder. This is as clear-cut as can be, in my opinion. So, next, let's just go to something stupid and fun, I guess. Well, there's a few things actually. Well, let's do this one first. Let's stay on Trump, okay? And here he is. I'm going to pause it before it starts blasting. The Republicans and Trump are having a renewed fixation on the communists and the Marxists. Rick Scott, who's the senator from Florida, we played a clip, we showed, actually, it was not a video of him, it was a travel advisory in response to the NAACP's travel advisory about Florida. Rick Scott put out a travel advisory, we showed this a couple weeks ago, about saying that communists and socialists, you are not welcome in Florida. Now, here we have Donald J. Trump saying that if he is elected, he will ban socialists and communists from America.
I will order my government to deny entry to all communists and all Marxists.
Wow.
I guess we have a clip of David Pakman responding to this for some reason, but
quite an idea.
Those who come to and join our country must love our country. We want them to
enjoin our country.
Love our country. We don't want them when they want to destroy our country. Welcome to America. We want to destroy your country. Thank you very much.
So, of course, there are very, very few Marxists in the country. There are very few communists in the country. There are very few socialists in the country. All those things are different. I am none of those things. I don't think I know. I would have to really think if I know anybody that would consider themselves those things. maybe socialist, democratic socialists, but it's a far stretch. And just because you are a democratic socialist doesn't mean that you hate America, by the way. Because you could probably argue, and remember, this is my idea of progressive patriotism. You could be a progressive, want to improve your country, as you would want to say, like if you're a weightlifter, you would want to improve your lifting abilities. It doesn't mean that you hate your body. You could be proud of who you are and want to get better, right? These proto-fascists, or whatever you want to call them, fascist light, don't want to grapple with the idea of making America greater or making America better or improving, and just say, we don't have it all figured out. We can keep going and make things better. They just want to complain. They'll complain about the homelessness. They'll never do anything. They'll complain about poverty because people are just poor. They won't say it's like, oh, it's a shame. It's like, oh, they're just lazy. They don't want to get jobs. They'll complain about people utilizing healthcare services for free through emergency room, but they'll never provide actual healthcare alternatives. They'll complain about immigration, but they don't provide immigration reform in a genuine capacity. They just want to put up a wall, which won't stop immigration. I mean, there's all these conversations without nuance. There's no nuance to ever be had here. So Trump wants to, and I think he wants to say he will literally ban them.
So we're going to keep foreign Christian-hating communists, Marxists, and socialists out of America.
All right.
So we don't need to hear David Pakman's take on it. I don't know if it goes back to the clip, but all right, he doesn't. So I don't know why it was clipped from Pakman, but the take that I want to give to you is that it is illegal. It is illegal based on the First Amendment to ban someone based on their ideology. Now, let's think this through, guys. Let us please think this through. We all agree. Everybody that's watching this show, at least, let's just say that. We all agree that fascism, Nazism are horrendous ideologies, indefensible ideologies. But do we believe, or do we think it's legal? Whether or not how you feel, right? Like, people might want to say, be like Indiana Jones and punch Nazis. But in the real world, right, violence is not a justification based on somebody's ideology. Unless their ideology is literally directing harm towards you in that moment. Okay? So, based on the First Amendment, what the ACLU was created on, protection of First Amendment, the actual founders of the ACLU defended, the founders of the ACLU were Jewish, by the way, defended Nazi rights to organize and have free expression. It doesn't mean that they're right. It doesn't mean that they have good ideas. It doesn't mean anything like that, right? But the idea and the principle of the First Amendment is to say that freedom of speech is not limited just to speech that we like. It is not just limited to our friends. It is afforded to every single person in this country. So for Trump to quite literally say that they want to ban Marxism, it is not, or Marxists or communists, it is, one, not feasible, but two, it is not legal. So when we see Rick Scott again here, he's going for the same thing.
If you're a socialist, communist, somebody that believes in big government, I would.
By the way, he just said, if you're socialist, communist, or someone that believes in big government. Now, this is from the party that wants to control women's uteruses. This is from the party that does not believe that you have the control of the autonomy over your own body if you are a female. This is from the party that is so big government that they want schools to inspect the genitals of kids playing sports. I am not even making that up. Look up what is going on in Florida. That is the proposal that they're coming forth to go after this small issue of transgender kids playing sports. This is the small government party. This is a senator This is Ron DeSantis. This is Donald Trump. This is Marco Rubio. Throw him in there. He's from Florida. This is Mitch McConnell. Look, the most rational and moderate Republicans don't believe this stuff. But these people are completely engulfing themselves. When I say these people, these elected officials are completely wrapping themselves in this anti-woke, anti-socialist. I guess they're on this kick because they're trying to find what can work for them electorally because they got smacked in 2022. They're searching for something. Oh, you like big government. Well, what is big government? Who considers what big government? You don't want people to come to Florida that don't want big government? Okay. Well, what's your threshold? From the party that is banning books out of public schools.
We think twice. Think twice if you're thinking about taking a vacation or
Sounds like a threat.
moving to Florida. We're the free state of Florida. We actually don't believe in socialism. We actually know people, and some people in our state lived under it, and we know people lived under socialism. It's not good.
This is the delivery of a senator.
It's not good for anybody. So if you're thinking about it, if you're thinking about coming to Florida and you're a socialist or communist, think twice. We like freedom, liberty, capitalism, things like that.
So I don't even feel the need to really defend this. But the first two things, like when we talk about political ideologies in real nuance, if you look at a genuine conversation with people on political ideologies, I consider myself a social democrat, right? That means I believe in a mixed economy, but as that is part of it, I believe in patriotism, I believe in liberty, I believe in freedom, I believe in equality, I believe in all of these things, justice. The system of capitalism has nothing to do with that. The system of socialism has nothing to do with that. Your ideology goes beyond the economic system in which you operate in. It is so disingenuous and continuously frustrating that, like, we just don't learn about this stuff in school early enough to grapple with, okay, that is not what that means. That is not what that phrase means. This is what historically the Red Scare has told people about. Just the same way that if we really wanted to scapegoat capitalism, we could. I don't. I talk about it, I feel like, in the most nuanced way that I can. Both systems, by the way, because I think there are good things in a socialistic system like healthcare, public education, public prisons, by the way, which that's something that I think we should all agree on. And the list goes not on and on and on, really, but like police. Police should be public employees. That is socialism, brother. Firemen. There are certain things. The military should be government run, which you can argue if that is quite literally, quote, socialism, but it is at least public ownership of a industry. Okay. This disingenuousness, he's just trying to LARP and appeal to the Florida base that Ron DeSantis had, because I'm pretty sure he's up for re-election. So that's that part of wokeism for you today and the anti-socialism. I just want to show you guys this clip and talk about it because in the chat, CB, he will know. We've talked about this. I used to joke about this in college. I used to joke about this back in the day and say, how come there's never been like a jacked president? How come there's never been like a really ripped or like muscular or strong president? Now, maybe like Teddy Roosevelt, people want to say he was strong. Yeah, sure. I mean, at least in the modern era, we've had very old, except for Barack Obama. I mean, George W. Bush was not extremely old, but we've had like older dudes that don't lift. So I've been saying, when are we going to have like the first jacked president? And multiple people sent me this clip of RFK Jr., who we talked about last week, lifting some weights. So let's just take a look at this and we'll talk about it after. So he's drinking Prime, which is like that streamer energy drink. So he's doing incline, he's lifting in jeans for some reason. 0. 0. 0.
Run it. Let's go.
0.
Up.
Oh, he got 0 reps. He got 0 reps. So, this is just a stupid little video, but I want to point out that the guy, RFK Jr., who, I don't know his medical history, but for a guy that looks like that, but is benching 115 pounds for 0 reps because he didn't touch his chest, but let's just say for 6 reps, he looks like that. The dude is on something. He is injecting himself with something. And we know that he is super anti-vax. So he won't inject a vaccine that prevents COVID-19, but he will definitely inject something else that will make him look like that. Just saying. So now let's take a look at this. Little small for you guys. Zoom in a little bit. Okay. So this is from the Supreme Court. This came out yesterday. U.S. Supreme Court issues a decision in Moore v. Harper. The court rejects the Independent State Legislature Theory, ruling that state courts have the power to review election laws and maps enacted by state legislatures. So, this is important. This is important for a number of reasons. One, because we actually got a good ruling from the Supreme Court, so that's pretty historic in this day and age. Number 2 is the Independent State Legislature Theory was one that basically said that the state legislature should have the ultimate authority on deciding how elections are run within a state. So let's use Pennsylvania as an example. Pennsylvania in 2020 had a Democratic governor, a Republican Senate, and a Republican House. So in theory, the state legislator, not the governor, so this is where the specifics of each state would come into play here, and the constitution of each state would come into play, but the state legislator would have control under this theory to control how the electoral college allocates its electors. So in Pennsylvania, Joe Biden won Pennsylvania, so he gets all the electors, right? So that's how that works. Now in other states, there are other methods which they will split them, or they have 2 and they'll just go 1 and 1 or whatever, or they'll, you know what I'm saying. And I'd have to pull up the specifics of the specific state to highlight the differences. But for most states, it is a winner take all system, and the electors are just chosen, and they just exist, right? And they vote for the person that the state voted for as a whole. If the Independent Legislature Theory went through, a Republican, or for that matter, a Democratic controlled, let's just say New York, where there is a Democratic state House and state Senate, could change. Now, it wouldn't impact anything in New York, right? But in theory, right, you could take Georgia or Arizona or Pennsylvania, for that matter, these swing states, and say, okay, well, Joe Biden might not have won the state. Let's just play it out. He won those states in 2020, but in 2024, let's just say Trump wins by 1 vote in Pennsylvania, and the Democrats somehow got the state Senate and the state House. They could say, you know what? We're actually going to allocate them, and we're going to split them. We're going to split the electoral votes rather than winner take all, and we're going to select our people to vote for Joe Biden. Now, the legality of some of that stuff would be challenged yet again, but in this case, it basically pushes it back. Now, the real importance of this, beyond just the partisan nature, is the support and the protection of what the Voting Rights Act, which has already been underwritten a few times now by the Supreme Court, the same Supreme Court, by the older makeup of the Supreme Court before Amy Coney Barrett was on there. I believe before Kavanaugh was on there as well, but I think when Gorsuch was on there, they basically took the legs out of the Voting Rights Act on a few cases. But this is important because any changes to election laws were formerly subject to the Voting Rights Act, and they would be reviewed federally to make sure that there was no issues with regards to the Voting Rights Act, specifically with targeting minority voters in elections and basically nullifying their vote in any sort of way, which may seem archaic in today's day and age, but let's not forget that in the 1960s, not Ronald Reagan, not yet at least, Ronald Reagan utilized the Southern strategy, but Richard Nixon utilized the Southern strategy, which he developed, and it caused the political realignment that we see today. The Southern strategy targeting Southern racists to switch from the Democratic Party to the Republican Party, the Dixiecrats switching to the Republican Party, and change the outcome, and you can quite literally pinpoint the Voting Rights Act and the Civil Rights Act being part of that switch immediately. Regardless, this case is a win. Now, the problem here is, not with this case, the problem here is that we have a few more cases that are due out in the next week or two, and mostly I think June and July are when these decisions come out. And the big one that you and I are probably waiting for is the Supreme Court's decision on student loan debt. I have what feels like probably bad news for you and probably for me, is that I don't think that we're going to get one of these miracles that says, you know what, the Supreme Court's going to allow it. Now, of course, we'll talk about this, I'm sure, when the case comes out, but remember that the president, under a plethora of different authorities, has the authority to cancel debt. The Department of Education has a unique ability to discharge student loan debt, as they have for millions of Americans throughout the years. And Joe Biden has already, if you ignore the $10,000 and the $20,000 for Pell Grants that he was doing for all of us, Joe Biden actually has, now I don't think it's enough, obviously, but Joe Biden has canceled more student loan debt than any president before him. And that doesn't mean that other presidents haven't. So we already know that presidents have the authority to do it. So as we sit here and wait, I just want you to know that in the coming weeks, this decision will come out, and we will probably not be happy with it. So let's take the wins when we get them, like in Moore v. Harper, and prepare ourselves for the worst, as we did with Dobbs, and make sure you organize, mobilize, vote, strategize, etc., donate, whatever you can, run, because these are the types of ways that we can make things happen. All right, that's that with the Supreme Court. And now I'll briefly go over Tucker Carlson was fired from Fox News a couple of weeks ago, if you all recall. The brown M&M or the green M&M, I think it was a green M&M, got Tucker canceled because, you know, Tucker was really into the boots that the M&M wore. But in all seriousness, he was fired. We don't fully know all the details yet, as we talked about back then, and I'm sure more will come out. Tucker has put out a not much more professional production than what I'm doing here on YouTube. He started doing that on Twitter, which is interesting, from a multimillionaire and a heir from a chicken dynasty. And it's not Los Pollos Hermanos, thank God, of course, right? But he has been doing a show on Twitter, right? And there is allegations, or rumors, I should say, that he is going to start his own media company, and we'll see how that goes. We will follow that story as it comes out. Now, the 8 o'clock slot on Fox News has been left in this limbo because they fired him abruptly, and they were trying a bunch of people out, and everyone kind of thought, all right, well, the guy that's probably going to come up is Bill O'Reilly's sidekick, Jesse Waters, which we now know will have the permanent 8 o'clock slot on Fox News. Jesse Waters is not talented. He has a history of being a racist. He is quite... let's just say this. If Fox News was trying to be more presentable to a more moderate position, this is not the guy, which they're not doing, by the way. But let's just say they were. Let's just say they were trying to pick off some people that felt, okay, Trump is not going to be the president. Maybe I like, I don't know, Chris Christie or Tim Scott, and I want to watch something that is not going to set my hair on fire, but I don't like MSNBC and I don't like fake news, CNN, whatever, right? Whatever reason. They wanted to bring some sort of demographic from that cohort into the viewership. They would not pick Jesse Waters, but they did. So that tells you that they are trying to still compete and outflank OAN and Newsmax and all these other far-right media outlets, but they're trying to do it in a way that is couched a little bit in having their cake and eating it too. They're trying to have their feet on both sides and say, we love Trump, but we also would prefer DeSantis, and we want to appeal to the not so outwardly aggressive people, and we also want to appeal to the anti-woke crowd. Now we can argue and go back and forth about who is more anti-woke and who is more, let's be honest, Ron DeSantis is by far more anti-LGBTQ than Trump is. That alone makes him more dangerous, in my opinion, just based on the laws that he's passed in Florida. Like, you think that the Trump ban in the military of transgender people is bad? DeSantis is way worse, in my opinion. And that's not to say that Trump's good, by the way. Let's be clear here, but he's significantly worse. But just to prove a little bit of Jesse Waters' bona fides for the 8 p.m. slot, here's his take on former President Barack Obama.
What do you think, Jesse?
Well, when you're the citizen of the world, you always
And this is from like last week.
think about the world instead of the United States. Remember,
So when you're a citizen of the world, you think of the world instead of the United States. So already, dog whistle number one.
this is a guy whose father has roots in Africa.
Okay, guy that has his dad has roots in Africa. Dog whistle number two.
This is a guy who spent a lot of his childhood in Southeast Asia.
A lot of his childhood in Southeast Asia. Dog whistle three.
Is that right? I think it's right. And then
He ate a dog, Jesse.
Oh, Greg Gutfeld, failed comedian, talks about having eaten a dog. That's dog whistle number 4.
I didn't bring that up, but I'm glad you did. And then spent a lot of time in Hawaii. Was that
Spend a lot of time in Hawaii, which
the last state to get a star on the flag? Not.
the last state to get a star on the flag. Dog whistle number 5. Basically saying that Hawaii, sorry, Fox News viewers, if you're from Hawaii, you're not really an American. This is what I'm talking about when I talk about the anti-American sentiment from these conservatives. Like, there is a place for tradition. There is a place for conservative values in the sense that our culture or whatever, our history, we want to hold on to it. We want to embrace it. We want to think about the founding principles of America. Those are all fine and dandy. The conservative culture of being a racist is not. The one of being a bigot, of being xenophobic, all this stuff, and frankly hating on one of the foundational beliefs of the American project, of being the melting pot, of being the mix of people from all around the world. Like, let me pull up the direct quote. Statue of Liberty, which welcomes immigrants at Ellis Island, says, "Give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to breathe free, the wretched refuse to your teeming shore." It doesn't say, "Give me your white." It doesn't say, "Give me your black," for that matter. It doesn't say, "Give me your you're extremely rich." It doesn't give me you're extremely skilled. No. This xenophobia, the bigotry is the point. The cruelty is the point. They want to otherize, demonize, and cast aside parts of this country that are considered your neighbors. They are your neighbors. They are your fellow Americans, and they want to otherize them. And they want to say that they're below you. They want you to look down and punch down and punch down and punch down, because if you look up, you will find that they're above you. They're the ones that are trying to pin you against each other. They're the ones that are trying to manipulate the media narrative and say, don't look at me. I just want tax cuts for me and my donors and my benefactors and my companies. You should be mad about the undocumented immigrant that happens to work for the same company as I do. Not me specifically. I'm speaking it theoretically here as the Fox News host, Jesse Waters. Like, go see who does the landscaping around the building. Go see who works for the individual hosts in the home care. Go see who the people that do this work for them. They don't care. The cruelty is the point. If they really cared about it, they would talk about real solutions, real immigration reform, real wealth inequality reform, real housing policy, real immigration policy. They don't care about that. It's a constant moving target. They're constantly moving the goalpost for a new scapegoat time and time again. Now, the dog whistle here is about Obama saying that he's a person of the world, not really an American. He doesn't like America because guess what? He is not from here. He's Kenyan. He's a Muslim. He's the birtherism conspiracy theory that we all have heard 1,000 times, which was started by Trump, or at least perpetuated by Trump and brought it to the mainstream narrative. Now, I have plenty of disagreements in policy with Barack Obama, but I would never, ever, the same way that I would never criticize Trump for being German or Biden for being Irish. These are things that are just, you are who you are. Or let's take it further. I would never criticize like Hillary Clinton. Again, somebody that I have policy disagreements with. I wouldn't push back and just say, oh, she's not qualified because she's a woman. That's essentially what these guys are saying. Or not even they're talking about qualifications. He's just talking about this painting this picture. Because if you do it enough, you can get people to get mad about Obama wearing a tan suit. These are not serious people. He is not a serious person. But then again, they don't have to be serious because all they have to do is spit out the crap that the people on Fox News want to hear. Here we have the take that you were seeing basically after that about the submersible, right? So I'm going to read this quickly for those who are viewing. You're seeing a bunch of ads, of course. Can't go on any of these sites anymore without a ton of ads. This is on Huffington Post. On Sunday, the submersible Titan went missing far off the coast of Newfoundland, Canada, in the North Atlantic Ocean. The tourist expedition led by OceanGate, a company that runs submersible trips for tourism and exploration, was supposed to take 5 men to view the shipwreck of the Titanic, nearly 13,000 feet below sea. A search for the sub, which included OceanGate Expedition CEO Stockton Rush on board, is now over after debris from the vessel was located following an apparent catastrophic implosion, the U.S. Coast Guard said Thursday. So they found them. They found human remains today, by the way, too. Skip ahead. Conservatives had another theory. Could the sub have disappeared because OceanGate's CEO went woke? Wokeness has become a new boogeyman for the right, and no one is safe, even in a case like this, with 5 people believed to have lost their lives in the deep sea. On Wednesday afternoon, Fox News' Jesse Waters suggested on the news network's show, The Five, that the men may have perished in the sub because Rush was too woke. Quote, there's been lawsuits. There's been accusations about slashing regulations. This is, not quoting here now, this is from the people that don't believe in regulations. They don't believe that government has a say in control over these things. But when there's a catastrophe, when a bridge collapses, then they want to say, well, where are the regulations? Why aren't there regulations? Well, we agree there should be regulations, right? I don't think you should just pay $250,000 and go into an unregulated ship and just go 13,000 feet under the ocean and just say, okay, You do what you want. And then when something horrible happens, we all want to feel bad. We all want to say, we have to go search for them. You have to go search for them. I mean, how many millions of dollars were spent searching for this? And that's not to say, oh, it's not worth it. I mean, you can debate that. But yeah, there should be regulations. Maybe there shouldn't be things like this that should happen. While at the same time, there are boats of migrants that were left and people just died out in the open in recent weeks. So the outrage is selective. The focus and the media narrative is selective. Continue the quote here. This is Waters saying this. He's quoted as saying, he's talking about Rush, the CEO. He didn't hire a bunch of 50-year-old white guys with military experience because he didn't want his vessels to be not inspirational for a younger generation. Waters said, referring to the Ocean Gate CEO, previously stating that he didn't want to hire older white men. I don't care who goes in these vessels. I just want them to be experienced and safe. This is the CEO. And, this is Waters. I want to be experienced and safe. And if you're going to be woke, you might have to. Waters said before cutting himself off. A popular slogan on the right is "Go woke, go broke." So, I mean, there you kind of have it. Every single tragedy, every single catastrophe, if there's a shooting, the shooter was woke. If the submersible collapses, it's because the CEO was woke. If McDonald's Grimace Shake is going viral and people are, fake dying from it, it's because everyone's woke and McDonald's is woke. Ron DeSantis becomes president, it's because he is the anti-woke president. I mean, the buzzword means nothing anymore. But this is their fixation. This is their fixation. Okay. Last thing for tonight. Okay. I've been hinting at talking about this for a few weeks at this point, but finally, I think it's time. It's a little late, but it's worthwhile. The discussion, I think, is worthwhile. Because it kind of puts into context my opinion on the 2024 election, specifically with Joe Biden. Progressive, scholar, and activist, and reverend, I believe, Cornel West has announced that he is running for president. I will show you here in a second his announcement, and we will talk about what happened since. But all things considered, Cornel West is one of the most inspirational speakers. He is a great orator. He is a great writer. He is somebody that I love listening to and watching his videos or whatever it is, listening to him speak about policy. A big supporter of Bernie in the past. But Cornel West's campaign is completely dead on arrival. And we'll talk about that after we watch this video.
In these bleak times, I have decided to run for truth and justice, which takes the form of running for President of the United States as a candidate for the People's Party. I enter into quest for truth. I enter into quest for justice. And the presidency is just one vehicle to pursue that truth and justice, what I've been trying to do all of my life. I come from a tradition where I care about you. I care about the quality of your life. I care about whether you have access to a job with a living wage, decent housing, women having control over their bodies, health care for all, de-escalating the destruction of the planet, the destruction of American democracy. Democracy creates disruption. It creates an eruption. It creates an interruption. Wide from below, the energies of everyday people is manifest. And I know there are precious people in your life who you care for. That's why It's important for you to be involved, important for you to participate. We're not talking about hating anybody. We're talking about loving. We're talking about affirming. We're talking about empowering those who have been pushed to the margins. Because neither political party wants to tell the truth about Wall Street, about Ukraine, about the Pentagon, about big tech. Neo-fascists like Brother Trump or milquetoast neoliberals like Brother Biden. Wow, I'm so happy to make a world-shaking decision. You know what I mean? Well, I know gangsters when I see them. And gangster's not a subjective expression, it's an objective condition. Do we have what it takes? We shall see. But some of us are going to go down fighting, go down swinging with style and a smile, accenting the best in you and trying to tease out the best in me. Let's do it together.
So, what possible problem could I have with Cornel West's campaign? Well, you may have missed it, but in the beginning of that video, Cornel West is not running for the Democratic primary. Cornel West is not running as a Republican. Cornel West is running, or was running, for the People's Party. Now, if you haven't heard of the People's Party in America, you may have heard it in other places, but in America, that's because it is not a real political party. It is an organization, but it does not have ballot access in the 50 states of America. So, functionally, no matter how great or how much you agree with Cornel West, I happen to on a lot of things, he was seeking the nomination of a party that does not have ballot access in 50 states, which means that he could not win even if he were to give it a real shot. After critique and criticism and knocking and an influx, I'm sure, of calls and emails from people that he actually trusts, Cornel West decided within, I think it was 3 or 4 days, to switch from seeking the People's Party nomination, again, not to seek the Democratic Party's nomination, but for the Green Party's nomination. Look, I have said this from the beginning, right? It is extremely hard to primary any sort of incumbent, let alone the sitting president of the United States. If Cornel West was running a messaging campaign to talk about the specifics of the issues that he highlighted, I would be like, go ahead, have at it, have fun, right? Because Biden will win the primary. That's just a fact. Whether we like it or not, that's a fact, right? I happen to align more politically with Cornel West, but he is seeking the nomination of the Green Party. And whether you think that third parties should have more of a say in America or not, historically, think back to 2000, third parties always in America have benefited, maybe not always, in the last at least 100 years, have benefited the right wing. If Cornel West was seeking the Democratic nomination and he polled at what like RFK is doing, right? 20% or whatever, I would be, go for it. Have at it. Great. Wonderful. Talk about Medicare for all. Talk about wealth inequality. Talk about housing. Talk about all these different issues that, he's great on, right? But as a third-party candidate running in a general election in a state like Pennsylvania, I could not, in good faith, vote for Cornel West to then Even if I politically align with him, remember, the American democratic system, small d democratic system, is functionally winner take all in most states. So in Pennsylvania, where Biden won by a few thousand votes, not hundreds of thousands, not millions, he won by a couple thousand votes in 2020. If just a small amount of people, like let's just say Cornel West, gets to the general election and 20,000 people in Pennsylvania voted for him, that could turn the entirety of the election towards Donald Trump or whoever the Republican is. That is the consideration that we have to have in these types of situations. Now, do I think he shouldn't run? He should just say, no, don't run at all. No, he can do whatever he wants. But as a progressive, as somebody that cares about pragmatism in the United States and in policy, I don't mean pragmatism as like, oh, he's too pie in the sky, because people say that about me. He's too pie in the sky about like Bernie Sanders. If Cornel West was running in 2024 in 2028 and it was like an open seat in the Democratic primary, he'd probably have my vote. But he's not. He's not. Context matters. Context matters, guys. And the same thing, like Marianne Williamson. Marianne Williamson is more progressive than Joe Biden, but that does not mean that I want to vote for her, because the pragmatic viewpoint of you can vote for who you want in the primary election. Go for it. Have fun. You should vote in a primary election. But when it boils down to it, the majority of Democrats want Joe Biden. And when the general election comes around, you should vote for the candidate that is most likely win and represent your values within the two-party dynamic. If the Green Party wanted to be taken seriously by people like me or like you, maybe you do take them seriously. I don't. Right now, at least. The Green Party should organize on the grassroots local level. A party that does not have a sitting congressman, that does not have a sitting senator, that does not have a sitting governor, that does not have, from what I know, not many state senators, state reps, township supervisors, borough council, mayors. That is where you pick up ground. If you were to say, we're going to start and we're just going to target one state, why don't you go target Florida or one of these states and just say, we're going to go after these states. We're going to get their vote. We're going to build a new party infrastructure. Then you can prove the concept. But you're not going to win a presidential election without a party apparatus that is strong. That's just a fact. When we talk about other countries and we think about it all, right? Oh, how come other countries don't have this two-party system? That's because they don't have a presidential system. They have a parliamentary system. It's a different system. If we wanted to do something like this, we should have ranked choice voting, which I support. But we don't. So it sounds naysaying. It sounds pessimistic. It sounds like, oh, is Connor really even a progressive if he doesn't want to support Cornel West? Yes, I am. But in the system that we are operating in, if I could wave a magic wand and say, we don't have any parties, that'd probably be the best thing, right? Like, it'd be great, but we don't have that. That is not feasible, and it is not logistically possible in America. I do not want Ron DeSantis, Donald Trump, Mike Pence, Vivek Ramaswamy, Chris Christie, Tim Scott, Nikki Haley. I don't want any of them to be the president. And the person that is going to stand in their way, even though he's not as progressive as I want him to be, is Joe Biden, because he is the sitting president. In my opinion, if Cornel West wanted to have a serious shot at a real messaging campaign, he should have ran in the Democratic primary and tried to pick off 20%, 25% of the vote, and then come to the table, negotiate for a platform policy or a platform like Bernie did. And Bernie almost won, by the way. And that's why we had so many pro-labor people. And like, let's not forget that Bernie was an independent, but he caucused with the Democrats. He was associated with the Democrats. He ran for the Democratic primary twice. That is the path for progressives. That is the tried and true path for progressives. I cannot emphasize it enough. I want progressives to win. I want people to come out of the woodwork like AOC and win. This is like the 5-year anniversary of AOC's upset in the primary election. You need to organize locally and build up. A candidacy for president or a political party that has no ground, that has no holding, that has no infrastructure, that has lack of ballot access, because the Green Party does now not have ballot access everywhere either, is a problem for a progressive outlook for the future. It is a failed project. Jill Stein was a failed project within the Green Party and brought the party down with her on the way out too. And I say that as somebody in my first election was considering voting for her. I voted for Hillary Clinton for the same exact reason. I could not sit and justify letting my vote in a swing state go to somebody that didn't have a chance of winning, because we can tell who has a chance of winning. Let's just be honest here. And then helping basically hand the presidency to Donald Trump. Now, it didn't matter in 2016, but it could have in 2020. It could have. So it sucks. Cornel West is awesome. He's great. He has great analysis of politics. I like him as a commentator, but I don't like him as a Green Party candidate. I don't like him as a People's Party candidate. I would love to see him try the Democratic Party to get a message through. Look, if RFK Jr. is getting 15, 20%, Cornel West could get 15, 20% easy, in my opinion. That's my take on that matter. And I am hopeful that he doesn't run in the general and it's just like a messaging campaign. That's my hope. We'll see. But that is all I have for you tonight. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you're on YouTube, hit the subscribe button, which is down below my face. You can hit the thumbs up button as well. It helps us get higher in the algorithm, however you want to put it. You can listen to the show on... no, you can't listen to the show on Facebook. You can listen to the show on Apple Podcasts and Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, Greater Society Media. You can follow me at Con O'Hanlon on Twitter. You can support the show for as little as $3 a month on patreon.com/Greater Society Media. And you can join our Discord, which is in the link of this video. With all that being said, thank you so much for watching. I will see you all next week. Till then, stay safe. Peace.